It's 11 p.m. on a Thursday evening. Most students would be studying or making plans for the weekend, but these students are here for a hastily arranged student government hearing where tensions are running high.
When I heard that this was happening, my first reaction was white-hot, inexplicable anger. I mean skull-cracking, burn-the-house-down anger.
We're all gathered here tonight, and we already know what's going to happen. We already know what's going to happen. It's a joke. It's an absolute positive joke.
The proponents of a constitutional referendum to reform the SG now find themselves on trial.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Elections, this is not a courtroom. And your job today is not to decide whether or not I'm guilty of a Class 5 violation, or a Class 10 violation, or a Class anything violation.
We are united tonight in opposition to the outrageous allegations made by the Board of Elections against the AU for SA campaign.
This week, the student body will have the opportunity to vote on a referendum to replace the student government with a new student association. But the proposal, intended to reduce political conflicts, has only intensified the bickering among SG leaders and amplified student concerns over what they see as an increasingly dysfunctional student government. The AU for SA campaign argues that the Student Association will remove the political roadblocks inherent in the student government.
We initiated this process a year ago because we saw the need for that kind of organization, and a student association would absolutely be the kind of organization that would put advocacy and programming and services first, and really trying to focus on the things that students need rather than the petty and petulant politics that dominates much of what we see in student government.
I think it's time for us to fundamentally change the way we do student voice on this campus to make sure that we have an organization that can effectively advocate for the students and continuously engage the campus community on the major issues that we face.
But a counter-campaign, led by other SG members, called Students for Transparency, opposes the referendum, arguing that the Student Association was crafted without enough student input.
This was done in a way that was behind closed doors. It was not transparent. It was a group of SG insiders who were doing this for their own political gain and for their own pet project, when really this should be a transparent and open public process.
The concept that this wasn't open and transparent is just not backed up by the facts. Every student had an opportunity to participate in this. Every student had an opportunity to be on the drafting committee. And we're in the midst of an aggressive campaign that is bringing our message to the students, engaging the students, talking to the students, and then eventually leaving it up to the students, having the students vote on this. You can't get much more transparent than that.
We believe that there should be this new committee with representatives from all the branches of SG and 6 to 8, depending on whatever the size is, but that can be open later, for the largest clubs on campus because they have the most representative students, where they actually sit down and physically write this Constitution the way they think they should have their student government be run.
When ATV News first covered the Student Association proposal last fall, then Senator Joe Wisniewski had been part of the drafting committee and spoke in favor of the reform. But now he joins Students for Transparency in opposing it.
When I did my interview with you, I talked about how this would be a wonderful opportunity for us to get out of groupthink. It would be a wonderful opportunity for us to reach out to students and get 600 to 1,000 signatures. Those were the things I was really passionate about. And sitting here talking to you today, none of those things happened. This was meant to be a fresh start, a rebranding campaign. And ultimately, it led to the Eagle publishing a cover that had our logo falling apart. That's not what this was meant to be.
The student government originally planned to collect signatures from the student body to place the referendum on a ballot last November. But internal miscommunications and procedural disputes forced a change of plans.
I found out that a bill had been written about doing this referenda election and having it done in November. I wasn't consulted on this date, I wasn't told about this date, I wasn't in the loop at all, which really is not the best idea if you want to run an election, is to tell the elections chair, hey, can you put an election together in X amount of time?
It would have been such a bureaucratic nightmare to get a petition out and petition to have this on the ballot that we had to go through the undergraduate Senate, and then we had to go through the undergraduate Senate several times.
Obviously the election didn't happen in November because I was not consulted, and I frankly was not comfortable running an election that I was not consulted about. It's written in our policy book that I need 30 days to put an election together. I wasn't given 30 days.
Had we approached the Judicial Board and the Board of Elections respectfully from the beginning and laid out our plans, we wouldn't have had this problem at all.
Students for Transparency says that the Senate prevented senators from proposing changes to the referendum.
I remember very clearly when Alex Hoffman, he's a senator in our undergraduate Senate, came up with a solution. He wanted to amend the Constitution. He was immediately shut out of the process through a loophole in our procedures.
I was the only senator that voted against this because I don't really believe in this groupthink idea that's been put on SG.
The referendum election was ultimately scheduled for February. But almost immediately after campaigning began, AU for SA was unexpectedly ordered to halt its campaign.
We'd been campaigning for 24 hours, and I was walking around Mary Graydon Center, and I was handed a letter with a notice that said that I had to stop campaigning and that I had to notify all of the people I was campaigning with, and we had to stop everything, take everything off the internet, and we had to stop immediately. And we didn't receive explanation on that for another 10 hours.
Allegations that AU for SA had sought an endorsement from AU Dems before campaigning officially began led the Board of Elections to file charges against AU for SA that threatened to suspend their campaign permanently.
We were being charged with a myriad of violations, from a Class 2 violation, which is a pretty simple run-of-the-mill elections rule, to a Class 5 violation, which is a big concern about elections ethics and insists that the fair and free conduct of elections have been interfered with.
With a lack of evidence, the Board of Elections unanimously threw out the charges, but the late-night hearing demonstrated the convoluted nature of the SG's election rules.
I think the biggest problem that I've seen this election is there are a lot of rules. And a lot of the rules, even I don't understand some of them.
The Board of Elections has 35 pages of rules to enforce. 35 pages of minute details on violations and elections ethics and technicalities here and there and loopholes here and there. And those are the kind of rules that aren't conducive to student input.
It was easier for me to run for an elected office in the district government than to run for being a senator in the AUSG. That's insane.
I think with all due respect to the Judicial Board and the Board of Elections, the actions that we've seen from them over the last several months are exactly why the student government needs to be reformed.
My job is to run this election, run it within the rules that I'm given. Do I like the rules I'm given? Not necessarily. Do they need to change? Yeah.
Both campaigns agree that SG reform is needed, but Students for Transparency argues that the reform process should be redone.
I'll be the first one to say it. SG is broken, and I would never disagree with that ever. It is broken.
But if we take the time to reach out to outside groups and get them involved, what we're hoping is to not just fix the organization for the short term, but create a real bridge between these different student organizations.
But AU for SA disagrees with the idea of restarting the reform process if the Student Association referendum fails.
To be honest, I think if this doesn't pass, it shows us that we can't spend another year doing this. This conversation has been incredibly taxing, and it has taken a lot of effort on the part of many people to get this through the political powers of the student government.
No matter whether you like student government or not, these changes are going to directly affect you, and these could be negative effects on you as a student, whether you like it or not.
There are policies that this university enacts on a daily basis that affect students in incredible ways. Students have to have a voice in that conversation, and they have to have the most effective voice that they can.
Creating the Student Association won't do that overnight, but it's where we start. It's where we begin to finally offer effective advocacy, quality services, and better programming for our students.
Despite all of the political maneuvering that has surrounded the Student Association referendum, the future of the SG or SA is now up to the AU students that choose to cast a vote. The ballot will be available on the MyAU portal until 5 p.m. on Tuesday, February 12th. But regardless of the referendum's outcome, stripping the politics out of the SG won't just take a change in the organization's documents, but a change in its attitudes and culture as well. This has been Douglas Bell for ATV News.